As we head into the coldest months of the year, a lot of us want to know what we can do to protect our trees and shrubs to get them through that time. So in this video, that's what we're going to talk about, steps that we can take and a few things you shouldn't do to help your trees and shrubs survive winter. You know, most trees and shrubs that are hardy for your area really don't need any extra care from us to get them through the winter time, and yet so many of us feel like we should be doing something, right? Well, there are some tangible things that we can do to help bolster their resilience, which is always a good thing. First is water. Make sure the soil around the root zone for your trees and shrubs is adequately hydrated, not saturated, but well watered. Cold air is drier, and when you add windy conditions to that, it's a sure way to dry out plants and trees quickly. So keep the soil well watered right up until your ground freezes. At that point, water isn't getting down to your roots anyway, so the more that's there before that happens, the more access to water your plants have to make it through. Next, add a generous layer of mulch. Mulch does many things to help our plants all through the year, but in winter, it provides some extra protection from extreme cold and acts as an insulating blanket to help keep those roots a little warmer. Now for younger trees, especially deciduous trees like this one, consider protecting the bark because the bark on young trees is very tender and susceptible to sun scald. That occurs when dark colored bark heats up on a sunny day and then freezes at night. That can lead to cracking. So the solution is to paint the south side of the trunk with diluted white interior latex paint, or you can wrap it with paper or plastic tree wrap. That tender bark is also attractive to gnawing animals like rabbits and voles, especially in winter. So that plastic tree wrap around the trunk or a wire barrier of fencing can keep the bark from being chewed on. Just make sure that whatever barrier you're using is suitable to keeping out the smallest threats in your garden. So let's talk about a couple things not to do. Once you get into late summer, hold off on all your pruning unless it's for dead, dying, or diseased branches, because pruning stimulates new growth, and there may not be enough time for that new growth to sufficiently harden off before the cold weather comes. And cold weather can create dieback on tender growth, and you certainly don't want that because that can create entryways for pests and diseases. So for all your cosmetic pruning, hold off until your plants or trees are well into dormancy. And the other important thing not to do, don't try to aggressively remove snow loads from branches. While you can gently try to knock some of it off, if you're too aggressive, you risk snapping, breaking, or at least cracking the branch because it was frozen, especially if it's coated in ice. And any of those does more harm than good. And finally, the steps that you take to protect your trees and shrubs as you head into wintertime really starts much earlier in the year because healthier plants are far more resilient to environmental stresses. But if you have trees or shrubs that are stressed out because they've been planted too closely together or they're not getting the proper sunlight or nutrients or water, well, those are far more susceptible coming into the wintertime. So the best thing that you can do to protect your trees and shrubs and get them safely through the wintertime is to keep them as healthy as possible all through the year.